Actually, it's the lead play in our offense. We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet, get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us, 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay. We got Carly on the line with us tonight as well, showing that we have a bad connection. So you guys just keep me informed in the chat. If it gets to the point where this is just not worth doing, it's not good quality, then we'll end it early, and I will try to reset tomorrow. Obviously, this isn't the normal backdrop, right? You see this picture right over here, Tim? See that one?
Yeah, I see that.
I painted that, man.
You did?
No, I didn't paint that. But what's really cool, this is my sister-in-law's guest bedroom. That's actually a picture of Mandy in high school.
Oh,
Woo! Homecoming queen. Let me tell you, that's good old days. Back when Clayton was 17 years old and a knucklehead. But anyway, so tonight, obviously, we'll kind of lead off with the big news that really caught me off guard. I was on the road and seen the tweet and was like, is this real? Is this legit? So Eric Stokes has been put on IR. First I heard, okay, he's not going to be playing. I thought, okay, maybe he's going to be inactive. They just already announced it. And now it sounds like he's on IR, which we would all agree that's probably season-ending IR unless you win 2 games in the playoffs and take him off in the playoffs. Part of me wants to go, okay, this explains why he struggled. But you guys know I've been pretty vocal about, last year he did not look good. Rookie year looked decent, graded out in the 60s, and the tape kind of backed it up. Last year, graded out in the 50s, and unfortunately the tape backed it up. This year, grading out in the low 50s, plays 2 games, and he's right back on IR. So I want to get your all's take on that. We talked about it, Tim. We were concerned, right? We were concerned that when Jair and Stokes came off IR, would it upset how good the defense was playing there, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, whenever it was. It seemed to happen that way, although, who are we to say that's why it happened, right? But what's your take on Stokes right off the bat? And I'm going to get Carly's take on this too.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it doesn't really help us here. We're kind of thin in the secondary as it is. But, this is I don't know if it's so much just throwing the defense out of rhythm other than the fact that, you can say this with any player, it's going to take you a game or 2 to hit your stride when you're coming back from injury. And when you're not able to put, game after game after game together and you can't stay on the field, it's really hard. It's hard to just come back and be on and at the top of your game. I think that's with anyone. And that's what you need out of Stokes. I mean, we looked at last week, he was a step to a step and a half behind. And, you got to attribute that to injury and, not being up to game speed, not playing consistently for a very long time. So it's sad to see Stokes going to IR, but, we got to step up. It's time for Val and Benny Sapp, Keyshawn Nixon, the boys got to step up in this secondary because we are shorthanded going into Minnesota for sure.
Definitely. And, you mentioned those names. Here, Matt Schneiden tweeted out earlier, Packers placed Eric Stokes on IR. Benny Sapp, the third, signed to the active roster. Bo Melton elevated for game day. If I understood correctly, that's Bo Melton's final elevation too. So he'll get a chance to kind of clear waivers once again there, where they'll have to sign him on the active roster, I believe. And if they don't sign him to the active roster, if indeed they lower him back down one more time, essentially what can happen is other people, I believe, can sign him on their practice squad, if I understood correctly. So,
and I would almost guarantee that he gets picked up. I was surprised he didn't get snatched up a little sooner, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, he's played pretty solid, man, for someone who is quote unquote not good enough to make the roster. You know what I mean?
Yep. And I think if we get the dub too, you know, and we're continuing to play meaningful football, I'd be looking for a signing for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Carly, what's your take on this? How concerned are you about Stokes missing, and anything else you want to add to that little take there?
Well, while I'm always sad to hear of any player suffering a setback, and a Packers player, of course, I am actually relieved that he's not going to be playing for this game, because I feel like it did happen the way that we thought, that, you know, with Jair and Stokes coming back, just possibly throwing off the rhythm. You're right, we don't know why. But I really like what Blake Berry said here in the chat. He says at like 8:34 Eastern, he basically said that it makes sense that we're concerned, but we cannot forget that Valentine and Valentine were the corners during our win streak and played. We were really impressed, and they made rookie mistakes, but they did a good job. And I feel like that cohesion, that synergy, that communication, that is what is going to win us these next two games. It's not going to be just star players trying to, you know, to make plays. It's going to be everybody working together. And so I'm not too worried at all.
Yeah, I'm really not either. I got to choose my words carefully here, because, you know, sometimes people hear that and you go, "Oh, you're not concerned," and they think that means that the team's going to be much better without Jair and without Stokes. I don't believe that. It's just the current state of those players. You know, that's the thing. There should be a little bit of an experience factor there too. That, you know, you would think, okay, when you think of an experienced player like Jair is supposed to be, you think, okay, less mental mistakes, right? And tougher, you know, more mental toughness in like crunch time. And you've seen the opposite the other day. You've seen mental mistakes with 7 minutes left in the game, you know, and really allowed the Panthers to get back into the game. So that's where I'm like, it can't get much worse. It really can't. So I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but I think they'll be just fine without them, considering how they played this year. Now, could this have been the game like the Rams game where Jair just balls out? Could be. We could be missing that, right? And like you said, Blake Berry's comment, he said, it's understandable to be concerned about the corners, but it shouldn't be forgotten that Valentine and Valentine were our corners during the L.A. Chargers, Lions, and Chiefs win streak. So it's important to point that out. And I love Andy Herman put a tweet out on earlier. I should have screenshotted it. It was pretty wild. Just he attached wins and losses to corners, and immediately he got roasted on Twitter, as we always do. But he was just simply saying, hey, here's how successful the team's been with these guys in the lineup. He wasn't saying that wins are a cornerback stat, just like no one truly says that wins are a quarterback stat. God forbid you point out how successful someone's been or how successful the team's been with them in the lineup without people trying to rake you over the coals and going, "Oh, it's not a win." You know, there's not a win's not a cornerback stat or a cornerback stat. It's silly. It's silly how people overreact. But let's go to the chat here real quick. Kempner Sports in the chat, appreciate you dropping through, buddy. He said, I'm hoping we win, but missing Jair, Stokes, and trading away Douglas is tough versus those Vikings wide receivers. The good news is they are starting Jaron Hall. LOL, they should have stuck with Mullins. We're going to see, right, Kempner? It may prove to be a mistake. We may see Dobbs or Mullen come in the second half because Jaron Hall's so bad. We also, I hate to say it, but we might see, you know, DeVito 2.0. You know what I mean? You never know what's going to hit. So let's hope that they come out ready to ball. And again, man, you go from when we went into this season, Tim, everyone was saying this defensive backs room is the strength of this team, right? Yeah. They weren't saying, I mean, everybody agreed the running backs were strong, right? We were big question mark on Jordan Love, big question mark on the wide receivers. The offensive line had a lot of experience, but no one would sit here and pretend like they're a Pro Bowl caliber offensive line, right? Especially with Bach out and Elton's still trying to get back to his old form after the knee injury. Now you look up at the cornerback room and you're like, if you had told me going into this year, hey, your cornerback room is going to be your 7th round pick in Valentine, the late round pick in Valentine, and Keyshawn Nixon in the slot, I'd probably say we won 3 games, man. I'm just being real. So, it's an interesting situation to be in. But, you know, considering nobody is sitting here, you know, putting their hard-earned money on the Packers competing for a Super Bowl, although we know all you got to do is get into the playoffs, and anything can happen. You've seen it with the Rams a few years ago. You've seen it with the Packers back in 2010, running the table on the road. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if we get one playoff game under our belt, you're going to get to see what these corners are made of, these young corners, and that really answers a lot of questions for you going into next year as you decide on a new defensive coordinator, right? If indeed they decide to go there. But I know this: if they don't change defensive coordinators, whoo, Tim, Twitter's going to burn, bro. It's going to burn to the ground, man.
Green Bay might burn. All the people that live there, they might burn it down.
I just love how everyone convinces themselves like this has definitely happened. And I'm telling you, it's like a kid. It's like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? But Chad Inc. in the chat says, yeah, their wide receiver core is really good. We've got to play tight on the back end this week, but we've got to keep Hall from scrambling and gashing us in the run yards. Yeah, it's a good point. Since you brung up Hall, why don't we do this real quick? Chad, why don't we go ahead and hit this video? Carly wanted us to touch on it real quick. And it was Matt LaFleur. He was actually asked about Jaron Hall. So let's see what Coach LaFleur had to say about the Vikings, I guess, third-string quarterback who's now all of a sudden named the starter.
I know these quarterbacks aren't all the same, but obviously Hall's not established yet, right? And, Bryce Young has had some ups and downs, and so did Baker, and obviously DeVito's DeVito. How do you make sure that you guys defensively can figure out how to not allow kind of either an inconsistent or a not yet established quarterback to have the kind of success that those last three guys did?
Yeah, I mean, and then you combine the fact that he's got really good players around him. I think they got a really good offensive line. When they've been running the ball effectively, and then just all the weapons they have in the passing game, it does make it a challenge. So I think it's important that you try to give some looks that maybe he has a little bit tougher time processing. In order to hopefully make a mistake. But I think it's going to be absolutely imperative that we do a good job of trying to limit his ability to make plays off schedule, outside the pocket. And that's something I think he does exceptionally well.
All right, Carly, you had brought this to my attention, that specific clip there. Let's hear what's on your mind about how Coach LaFleur answered that question.
So first of all, I'm going to preface this with I am probably the least knowledgeable person here about football. Don't claim any authority or any.
Don't do that.
No, but I want to say I'm not coming in here knowing like I'm probably going to use some wrong words in talking about schemes or whatever. But I'm just going to throw that out there. But watching that as a fan, they ask are we going to make sure that this backup QB doesn't look like a Hall of Famer like we did for the last three QBs we played. And his response is 1, well, he has a really good O-line. 2, they're running the ball effectively. And 3, they have good weapons in the passing game. I would say definitely yes to the third, whether they're running the ball effectively or have a really good O-line. I think both of those can be up for discussion. But regardless of whether those are true, saying that the way that they're going to keep this quarterback from looking great is to give looks that he has a tougher time processing and hopefully plan on him making a mistake. Honestly, hearing him say that just pisses me off because Clayton, you always say that, the coach, when they're talking there in the press conferences, they're talking to their players. And if I'm a player, the last thing I want to hear from my coach is that for this game, for us to win this game or do well, is the scheme has to be smarter than the QB, or the QB has to be dumber than the scheme, and hopefully the QB will make a mistake, that it's not on the players at all. And I just cannot get over how that would be his answer to that question. And I'm almost going to join Jacob Bus here with saying, get Matt LaFleur out of here.
I love it. Oh, man.
Carly Ray dropping the hammer.
Brung the thunder tonight. We wasn't expecting
I got kind of fired up.
Tim, let me get your take before I kind of give my take here, man.
I'll tell you who I want talking to our players right now. Miss Carly Ray needs to go talk to that team, or at least maybe that coaching staff.
Forget the illusionist. Get him out of the locker room. We need Carly Ray in there. Guys, right? It's
really a great point because, clearly these players, I guess led by Jair Alexander, are not fans of what this approach is, or they're not completely bought in. At least it seems that way, some of them. I almost wonder if the approach defensively to this game is, you can't really, like you said, Clayton, we could sit here and scheme and plan all we want for one quarterback and, be 3 minutes into the game, 5 minutes into the game and end up with another one. And Minnesota having the ability to attack in both the run and the passing game means that they could give us different looks all day. I almost wonder if with everything that's going on, if this is like one of those games, like if I'm Joe Barry being in the flaming hot, kerosene doused hot seat that I'm in right now, I wonder if you steer into the skid and you just tell your young guys, hey, head on a swivel. We're going to switch it up. We're going to run man. We're going to run zone. We're going to ask you guys to do some things you might not have done. All bets are off. I'll tell you what, Rudy Ford better see the field because in my mind, Ant Johnson Jr. is another corner if we need him with the depth issues that we have available for this game, barring any kind of, crazy situation on the field. You may need to switch up personnel and utilize the safeties you have available in order to bring somebody else down. But we need a good game out of everybody. I just don't think we can get, in other words, you can't be overly committed to a singular approach against this Vikings team. We're not gonna impose our will per se. We need to be in a point or at a position where we're reacting accordingly to what's happening situationally on the field. If we're trying to rush this quarterback and he's stepping up and out and it's 5 yards or it's 8 yards or it's 10 yards, we have to adjust immediately. So I guess I would. I don't know what you guys think about that, but rather than continuing to pound your head against the brick wall and wave the playbook in these guys' faces, and talk about communication, maybe you put an emphasis on other things. And to me, this is a situational football game. They all are, but I don't think we're going to just walk into Minnesota out there onto that field and, tell that offense what it's going to do all day. So we need to be aware of that, and we need to utilize the best that we can out of the personnel that's available.
Yeah.
And Tim, I think if Jaron Hall is going to, play backyard football by rushing up in the pocket and breaking out, then let's just play some backyard football back at him.
That's
just
right.
Get ready for things to get messy in there, go hard, go aggressive, and know where the ball is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would rather see this defense getting beat. Speaking strictly from a secondary standpoint right now, I'd rather see them get beat being aggressive than beat, standing and trying to, let it come to them. I want to see downhill play from our linebackers and our secondary. And, this front's going to have to do all they can in the trenches. But I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting game. Clayton, I'm with you. I don't see us getting boat raced, and I don't see us boat racing them, man. This could be like a, Tyson Holyfield kind of deal here.
Yeah, Vegas has been all over it all year long, and them going from a 2-point game down to a 1.5 and now a 1, I believe. With the Vikings being 1-point favorites, minus the 3-point home field advantage, it would suggest that the Packers are a slightly better team than the Vikings in the current state of both teams. But any given Sunday, man, we could see a boat race, but I agree, man. My opinion still hasn't changed, Tim. I think it's going to be a scrapper, man. I think it's going to be one of those that our defense struggles and their offense struggles. I could see it being the case,
I'll tell you what, if there was ever a game that we would love to see a Keyshawn Nixon touchdown return, this is the one, because I truly believe, one or two of those freak type of plays going our way in this game could totally tilt it.
He did it. This is the anniversary. Not the exact anniversary, but this is the game that he did it in last year in Green Bay.
That's right.
So it's time. It is time for another one. He has gone the entire season without it. It is time for him to get that return TD. Absolutely.
And I've seen him taking a lot less out of the end zone than he did earlier in the year. I think they're telling him to be more selective, be more aware of where he is in that end zone. But I think anything close, that's coming out for sure. I do hope that we see him just returning kickoffs I think punts are something that, especially having Jaden Reed back, I'm looking forward to seeing Jaden Reed returning some punts. Lots of punts, hopefully, that our defense is forcing them to do after many 3-and-outs. But yeah, man, I just think, one or two of those, those kind of freak plays there, whether it's special teams or, a defensive takeaway, something that can put you up a touchdown really quick, can tilt the balance in the game for sure.
Yeah. As far as LaFleur's comments, we talk about all the time, and Carly, you pointed out that it was actually the first time I ever heard the statement that when a coach talks to the media, he's actually talking to his team. Michael Lombardi mentioned it. And, he studied under Bill Walsh for a while. And then it was like, how it is. You buy a new car, you buy a Mustang, you don't see Mustangs anywhere. You buy a Mustang, they're everywhere. Everywhere you go, you see them now. So I heard that for the first time. It was like the next week I heard Brian Billick talk about it and say that essentially that's what you use press conferences for. So as you guys know, Brian Billick, before he got the job with the Ravens, he was like one of the PR men in the 49ers organization. And he actually wrote that huge football, but what people refer to as the Football Bible. It's a book about Bill Walsh. I think it was called the Winning Way or something like that. Phenomenal book. Huge too. I'm talking about it makes Take Your Eye Off the Ball look like just a little picture book, man. It is amazing. And they kind of talk about it in that as well. So with that being said, if the coach is sending a message to the players, what was LaFleur's message right there to the players? To me, I could see how someone, like Carly, I could see you saying, okay, well, it comes across kind of like it's weak, right? It's like we're going to let them dictate the game and this and that. I think personally, he's taking the Bill Belichick approach. Have you guys ever listened to a Bill Belichick press conference? Like when he's asked
not since I've known his name.
Yeah. When you should go watch one. It is hilarious watching them try to get any bit of information out of him. So essentially what he does, they will ask him, hey, what's the keys to victory or whatever. All he does is go through and talk about how great the other team is, right? He talks about how this tight end is one of the most dynamic tight ends in the game. They got one of the best offensive lines in the game. This quarterback's extremely smart, or this quarterback's mobile. He can hurt you on the edges. So think about that. If you're his players hearing that, he's literally telling you, here is what you've got to watch for. Here is how, not necessarily the specifics of this is how we stop this team, as much as we are well aware of what you guys do. And the other thing is you're paying them a compliment rather than giving them fuel on the fire. That's just another way of looking at it, Carly. And I'm not saying that that's 100% correct and what you're saying is wrong. I just think that's the mindset that goes in behind it. Me personally, I kind of like that approach because, being that I never liked when a player of my team talks trash going into a game. You guys heard me respond to Jair Alexander earlier this year when he said we were going to run the table. Don't that just sound like a silly comment now? Like, he's not even on the field, and he's basically saying, these guys out here, we're going to run the table. They're going to – you know how much pressure that puts on them? You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a little bit of that going on as well. But as much as I hear – I was going to say, as much as I want to agree with what you're saying, I have to concede to the Belichick, Bill Walsh approach. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think that's what he was trying to accomplish. Now, is there a problem with his voice inflection, Carly? And people are going, oh, come on, guys. No.
That's true. It's not what you say, it's how you say it sometimes, too.
And listen, I love Matt LaFleur. I'm a fan of Matt LaFleur. I say going into this season, I hope to God they don't put him on the chopping block with the youngest team in the NFL and expect him to work a miracle or he's gone. That's just not fair to the coach. I like him. But I've also got to be honest here. If I'm going into a bar fight, Matt LaFleur is probably the last head coach in the league I'm picking to get my back. He just doesn't come across with his voice inflection, his demeanor. I'm not saying you got to get up there and be all boisterous like some communist or something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying it was pretty extreme, right? But I'm just simply saying that, like, he sometimes he comes across as sad. And it's like, what are we doing here? There's just, you expect your guys to be higher energy and you're not high energy. I don't know. Does that make sense? And what were you going to say, Carly? I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just think what you said about, not giving fuel to the other team or whatever, I do think, though, I guess that statement, we're going to try and give looks that he has a tougher time processing and hopefully he'll make a mistake. Like, you don't think that would give fuel to the other team? Because if I heard that, I'd be like,
That's
you
a good
just
point. That's
wait.
a very good point. Yeah. He's expecting us to make a mistake. I can see that. Yeah, that's a good point. I
And
didn't hear
I
that.
know you can't, be talking about how you're going to adjust the defense. You don't want to be giving anything away, but you could spend 15 seconds talking about, the practices have gone well. The guys have really been
Right.
putting in the time. Like we are confident that we have some great rookies out there that are really going to step it up. Like, that's what I want to hear.
Yep.
Right. Gotcha.
But I'm just a fan.
Yeah.
No, I think where Carly's coming from is just like trying to, instill some confidence in your players coming from your coach. Like the players wanting to see maybe a little bit in these press conferences that the, head coach has some confidence in them. Not to say that they don't, but I think you have to balance out your, your approach when it comes to that, because you are, vicariously speaking to your players, and messaging is tricky sometimes, especially when you have to watch what you're saying in general, because you don't want to tip your hand. But yeah, I would, and we've seen that from LaFleur before, it's just, I think Carly's onto something with the practices. It makes me wonder how we really closed out this week, getting ready for Minnesota. But obviously now it doesn't matter. They're already there. Kickoff is tomorrow night. So the plane has landed. The fellas are getting ready. I'm sure they're in some hotel ballroom right now doing a walkthrough or something, So I just hope these young players are ready to step up. And I think a lot of them are, on that side of the ball, especially. And, we've got a really good offense too, guys. There is a chance that Jay Money and the boys could just go out there and run away with this one too. That would be epic. I'll take that all day. So try and stay positive going into game day.
Yeah, I got you, man. Doug in the chat says, my hot take of the night is to go find the Go Long blog webpage. Bob McGinn is a former Packer beat writer. He basically did a podcast where he delivered a quote, kids get off my lawn diatribe on Jair. I used to talk bad, Doug. I used to talk bad about Mr. McGinn. Mr. McGinn made a comment last offseason where he said, this was right as Aaron Rodgers, basically, both he and Goody said, yeah, the plan is to have Aaron back. And Aaron's getting ready to go into the darkness retreat. And Bob McGinn come out and said, I'm hearing throughout the building that they are done with Aaron Rodgers. They are sick of it, and he will not be the quarterback in Green Bay. And let me tell you something. I perked up. I'm like, this guy out here spread false information. Who the heck does he think he is? This Bob McGinn, this whatever. He was 100% correct, Doug. He nailed it. He had it before anybody else. And here's what's crazy. You said it, right? He's an old crusty guy, right? He's been around forever, right? He came over with Noah on the boat and started covering the Packers. When you look at those older guys and they have the inside track spot on, tells me probably got it from the organization. And when you get that information from the organization, that means you're in. See, Goody, just like it's amazing. I didn't expect this podcast to go in this direction, but it's really cool. Like, we're talking about LaFleur and how he's speaking to the players, right? He's speaking to the players through the media. Something else the general manager does, he has mouthpieces in the media too. If you really pay attention and say, okay, who's been covering the Packers the longest, right? And who has never went on a rant about the organization? But they always seem to have a little inside track. There's two guys, in my opinion. Silverstein, however you say his last name, the guy they refer to as Spoon. And then you've also got Bob McGinn. I'm just saying, I personally think that Spoon is Goody's go-to guy. When he wants a message out there, he sends it through Spoon. And of course, they had the Green 19 podcast, a couple other things that they were doing when gosh, I can't remember her name now. She did an excellent job. She just went on to the Panthers to cover their team. It's escaping me right now. It's how it is. You leave the Packers and you don't exist anymore. That's just the way it is. So sorry about that. But it's just it's kind of neat to see behind the scenes, how they use certain people to get messages across to not just the players but the fans too. This kind of cracked me up in here. Blake Berry said we were talking about the coaches, right? And what I said about the whole who would you pick in a bar fight, right? Blake Berry says, Clayton, if there's a fight between Matt LaFleur and Mike McDaniel, who you got? I'm gonna call it a draw, and it'll probably be the most boring fight you'll ever see in your life. To be honest with you, man. I know. And then he goes on to say Matt would break Pete Carroll's hip. That's nice there. That's a little elderly abuse. We appreciate you there, Mr.
Hold
Blake.
on, Matt McDaniel and LaFleur fight. There'd be a whole lot of talking.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say Mike McDaniel would just talk him to death.
It'd
It
be
would
like a
go
lot of,
to
"Come
like
on,
4 in
bro."
the morning and they'd
Yeah,
fall asleep.
Come on, bro.
looking
Back
over their
up, bro.
shoulder, waiting for someone to get in between them so they can go hold me back. Hold me back. God, I love it, man.
Oh,
I love it. And then Jim Tyson in the chat says Mike McDaniel would be my last pick personally. A couple guys there. It's got some weak chins. There's no two ways about it.
I'll tell you what, though, Mike McDaniel's got 100% control of that Miami locker room.
Oh, dude,
I will give him that. The way he relates to his players, he's got a way about him. You may not agree with it. It may seem a little strange, but I tell you, those players in that meeting room in Miami, man, they are locked in with their head coach for sure.
And you know why, Tim? People get this like misconception that you've got to be something cool. You've got to be something that you're not to impress people for them to follow you. John Madden 101. John Madden had a famous quote. He said, the one thing you can't be around your team is phony. They'll see right through it. And once they realize you're phony, you're done. You're absolutely done. They won't follow you anywhere. Vince Lombardi's famous quote, and I'll botch it, but it's something along the lines of, once you've won a man's heart, they will follow you anywhere, right? Being real with people. Nick Sirianni in Philly, right? I know they're struggling here of late, fired their DC and stuff. I think we would all agree he's had some success, right? Made it to the Super Bowl last year. Same thing. Have y'all ever seen his opening press conference when he got hired? It is the most awkward interview you will ever see in your life. But why did he have success? In my opinion, he was just himself. He was his quirky self. That's what you're seeing with McDaniel, in my opinion.
Yep.
And I think it rubbed people the wrong way initially, and people were kind of approaching it like, okay, this guy's fake. He's trying to act like something he's not. I think we're all settling into the fact now that, yeah, this dude's goofy. That's who he is.
Yep.
And the players are okay with that, but it does help that you're having some success, though, right? I mean, success fixes everything. There's no doubt about that. Jen Wright in the chat says, I feel bad for Stokes. It's a hard go, yeah. You know, anytime we talk, I don't want to say bad, but anytime we don't have positive things to say about a player because they're underperforming, man, it's never anything personal. It does suck from a young player standpoint. And we've seen him over and over and over. We actually got a video here, if you guys remember. It's just real quick. Rashawn Gary pumping up Jordan Love. Look who's over to the left right here.
Stop playing with him! Stop playing with him!
You see him as Stokes. Like, his teammates absolutely love him. And you can hear the way the coaches talk about Stokes, too, is he's just one of those players. He's kind of a glue in the locker room. It sucks because he's got all the physical ability in the world. It's just he can't put it together, man.
I think the toughest part about Stokes was clearly the plan was, once they had him back here, was to just start him and play him and get some good eval these last couple of games. And it's just tough after seeing the way he played last week, him not getting a shot to go out there and, redeem himself, so to speak. So you really feel for him, man, because, I saw that up close, man. He worked really hard just to get back on the field for us. And, I hope he has a speedy recovery, and this isn't the last we see of him, but certainly this year, that's a wrap for Stokes. So, next man up.
Yeah. And the other thing too, when you have that was a major injury. He had like 2 major injuries on the same leg, essentially, right? When you have a major injury like that, you try to overcompensate with other parts of the muscle group and stuff. And I don't think it's any coincidence now all of a sudden the hamstring, right? It's like he's trying to get his body reacclimated to that invasive surgery they had to do. No matter what the surgery is, your body is a very sensitive thing. It's like when people get an ACL surgery, right? I've heard many people talk about it doesn't feel the same because their body's trying to adapt to it. Their body is telling them, hey, something's wrong here. And the doctors have to continue to reassure them, no, the knee's stronger than it ever was. It's literally stronger than your natural ligament. with the way we've replaced the ACL. If it's not a tear, if it's a tear, it's a totally different ball game. But if you completely, or I'm sorry, what is it, a sprain, right? Which is technically a tear. But if it's snapped in half, if you snap that ligament, they start fresh and replace it. It's stronger than it's ever been. But in an athlete's mind and the way it feels in the knee is this thing's going to blow up again. And they keep reassuring them it's not going to go. It's just, it's kind of one of those things too. So I try not to be too hard on Stokes. I just get frustrated when it's just this constant talk about the first round picks. And it's like, come on, guys. We keep saying first round picks. Jair's not playing like a first round pick. Stokes hasn't been healthy for 2 years. Darnell Savage graded out as the worst safety in the league last year. Like, how can we just brush it under the rug and go, well, it's just the coaches are not getting the best. Busts happen all the time. They happen all the time. Might not be the case here, but.
And I tend to lean that way generally. Like after your first, 1 to 2 years in the league, like my concern about where you were drafted is just, it's about what have you done for me lately, right? How have you played this year? How did you play last year? And it's just like Jair. Yeah, it's disappointing, but who cares when we drafted the guy? He's an NFL veteran now, being paid more than anyone else to play the position. Let's look at the recent track record and put that at a little bit, on a higher pedestal, I guess, than the draft stock. But certainly early in the career, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Jen Wright says, especially when you tear your PCL and MCL. I mean, there's just a lot of damage going on there. Robert Allen says Ferrari with the slipping clutch is no good. It's so true, and that was his claim to fame. Like someone said, I actually had it up on the screen just a second ago. I'm trying to keep up with the chat, but you guys see I'm staring at the ceiling fan. I'm gonna have a better setup tomorrow. We just rushed this thing out tonight, but that was his claim to fame, was his speed, his athleticism. Right? It was like, okay, just another one. I mean, surprise, surprise, we took higher AS right in the first round. That's what Stokes was. Many people weren't really on Stokes as heavy as obviously Goody was. So
he's almost like the Scoot of the defense. It's like
it's true. Yeah, it really is. He's got the stride length too. He's obviously not as tall as Scoot. I know you're not saying that, but stride length is huge, and you could tell he's kind of a longer corner, right? For sure. Yep. So,
and then of course both of them speed guys, both of them having the hamstring issues. It's just one of those things.
I like John being positive in here, man. John says Barry and Bisaccia and Matt LaFleur are not the coaching story for Green Bay. It's Tom Clements.
There you go.
Clements seems to have hit another banger here, man. It's pretty wild. And I love they asked
Michael Jordan of quarterback coaches, man.
Yeah. The other day they were asking him, like, are you planning on coming back? And he's kind of, I don't know. When they brung him out of retirement, which, by the way, if you think that was a good hire, credit Aaron Rodgers, right? That was Aaron Rodgers who went. Yep. He called him up. He said he was on the front porch petting the dog when he called. Retirement. But man, Jordan Love, Carly, we talked a lot about Jordan Love earlier today on Good Morning Lambeau. What's your take on Jordan up to this point? Because it's been a little bit before, since you've been on the show. How you feeling about Jordan's performance here lately? I mean, he's just 1 or 2 more performances away from, if he has a 3-touchdown night tomorrow somehow, some way. My goodness, there's going to be whispers of if the Packers had a better record, he might be in competition for the MVP. But what do you think about Jordan so far?
Well, from the things I've been learning this season and about just technique and footwork and things, I guess I do think he's the guy. I don't think they're going to, get rid of him or anything. And he's been improving a lot. And as far as what he brings to the locker room, I think he's awesome. I don't know if he can be do we want a good quarterback? Do we want a top, 10 quarterback, a top 5? Do we want a Hall of Famer? And I honestly don't think you can make that determination in the first 3 years of a guy's career for the most part. It takes time to develop. And so I think we're keeping him. I want us to keep him. I can't make any predictions about his future, but as far as I like the Packers because I love rooting for a team that I can respect, that I feel like for the most part does things the right way in a lot of things. I like that there's no owner. And I like a lot of the players that are there just in terms of the integrity that I feel like they show. And I think Love is just one of the best examples of that we've seen, in humility. And I really like watching him play. I like watching him play. And so I'm glad he's my QB.
Yeah, the way he carries himself is just phenomenal. And you timed that just right. That noise you guys heard was an airplane going over. We're on top of a hill in a subdivision that's overlooking Chattanooga. And it's like every airplane has to buzz the top of the roof going by. And it's never like a jetliner where it's just smooth. It's like one of those prop planes where it sounds like the propeller's about to fall off the thing. So good job, Carly. You took that right up to as soon as they cleared the house, you were done. I love his demeanor. I love the way Love carries himself. I think he's just that was one of the things in his scouting report too. And initially, I'm like, now how do they know that about a college kid that he's this quiet leader and this and that? And then you start hearing his background about okay, what he dealt with as a kid and how he inherited some of his dad's leadership traits and his dad being a police officer, protect and serve. His mother a police officer too, and yeah, I know. Listen, I know police officers have gotten a bad rap the last few years. It is amazing to me how one or two bad ones, all of a sudden, they're all evil. I mean, these people are going out there putting their life on the line constantly. It's like our military, and people want to disrespect our military. It's like, you can love the warrior and hate the war, right?
That's right.
Just the fact that they're willing to sacrifice their life, and to think that he was raised in a house with two parents that were constantly putting their life on the line. And then, of course, losing his dad at an early age. And just, I just think back to training camp, too. And whether you're religious or not, it makes no difference to me. I say I'm not religious either. That's a topic for another day. But that little band he had on, remember he said, what did it say? I am second is what his band said. He said it's just a daily reminder that God comes first and put other people first. It just kind of keeps things into perspective. Like I'm second. Everyone else comes before me. Remember what we said? Leaders eat last, right?
Yep.
Same exact principle. Yeah. Just the fact that he's that young and then get to sit behind Aaron for 3 years, and now you're seeing the accuracy improve, man. It's hard not to grin and talk about him, man. I think we got us another one. It's really exciting, and to see the way his teammates kind of rally around him is just really, really cool, man. Really cool.
Carly's got a great point too about evaluating him after 3 years. I mean, if we want to look back at 12 and make the Aaron Rodgers comparison, I mean, arguably, Aaron Rodgers played his best football after the Super Bowl, after, the 2010 season. Really, some of his best, by the numbers years came in subsequent years as he hit his prime. I think if you looked at, Aaron's first couple of years, we would be kind of looking at very similarly right now. This is Jordan's first real crack at it, and he looks like the guy. There's still a lot of work, and you're right, Clayton, to think about what he went through and to realize how he's still a very young man, and the stuff losing his father and stuff that wasn't that long ago in his life, and to think of where he came from, almost not playing football anymore in high school, to getting back out there and getting all the way to the NFL and now leading the greatest franchise in professional sports here is a pretty miraculous story. And I feel good about him under center going forward.
Preach it, Tim. Preach it.
Amen. The church says amen.
And everybody said it's time to go to lunch.
Amen.
Number one Packer fan in the chat said, I positively love my jersey. LOL. I'm getting a frame box for it next week. I'll post pics on Twitter. Glad you got it, man. Really appreciate you supporting the stream. Appreciate you being a member of the PTA Posse. If you guys are interested in joining our YouTube group, it's something we don't talk about often, but when you hear people refer to the PTA Posse, that was the name that the listeners came up with for our YouTube group. You just click on our homepage on YouTube. You'll see a join tab. You click it. You can join. And then we give away autographed memorabilia from time to time where we take everybody's name that's a current YouTube member and throw it into the hat. And probably won't be able to do one this week because obviously I'm going to be down here away from all of my setup to where we can't do it justice. But next week we will, for week 18, we'll give away another jersey for sure. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and announce it. You got to remind me this is who we picked though, Tim. You know how I am. I'll sleep tonight and forget tomorrow. Autographed David Bakhtiari jersey. Okay, that'll be the next one. So
sweet.
That'll be a good piece. That's possibly a Hall of Famer, so kind of cool. And then right on track here, always being a blessing. United Base just gifted 10 memberships. So Bates, you're awesome, dude. We appreciate you, buddy. Really
love that. Love
and
it.
Now I don't get upset when you guys gift them because I've got basically a a system now where I can just copy the CSV, I believe, or CVS, whatever, CSV, I think it is, and just put it into the system. So I ain't got to write them all down individually, man. That sucked. I was just like, please stop gifting. I hope this goes back to 30 people. I'm tired of writing these down. So just shows you I'm quite the boomer, no doubt about it. There is something else I wanted to hit on real quick. I've got that tweet screenshotted here. This was from Andy Herman. Let me drop this down. And again, number one Packer fan. Glad you got it, buddy. Thanks again, Bates. We appreciate you, man. So Andy Herman, this is what he tweeted out. Packers record by starting cornerback combos. When Alexander, Valentine, and Nixon are on the field, they're 1-0. Alexander, Stokes, and Nixon, 1-0. Valentine, Nixon, 3-2. Douglas, Valentine, Nixon, 1-1. Valentine, Douglas, Nixon, 0-1. Stokes, Valentine, Nixon, 0-1. Alexander, Douglas, Nixon, 1-3. So essentially, if you were to say, okay, when these players are on the field, what is the win-loss record of the Packers? Again, guys, he's saying he says it right at the bottom. Yes, I know wins are not a cornerback stat, just interesting. And immediately people are like, oh, now wins are a cornerback stat. It's like, God almighty. So Valentine's record, right, when he's on the field, 5-4. Valentine with a B, as in boy, is 3-3. Alexander 3-3. Stokes 1-1. Nixon 7-8, and Douglas 2-5. Now the Douglas thing is very interesting because I think we would all agree the defense was playing much better at that point, and the offense was struggling. Since they got rid of Douglas, the defenses went poopy, and the offense is kind of carrying the load, right? So that's a very interesting stat there, which just like he specified, wins aren't a cornerback stat, just like it's not a quarterback stat. But I thought that was kind of cool that he just took the time, and I thanked him on Twitter. Anyone who takes the time to kind of break that type of stuff down, it just kind of shows you that Valentine somewhat held his own. I know PFF hasn't agreed with that much. I can't think of very many times where it's like, man, Valentine's getting absolutely lit up. He's made rookie mistakes, but maybe I'm giving a little too much grace to there, just saying it, because I constantly add in the caveat, right? He's a 7th-round pick. What are we expecting? If you're going to get mad at somebody, be mad at Goody for trading away Rasul, right? So anything you want to add to that, Tim? Carly, anything there?
I actually have real super quick. I was listening to the Packers preview with Wes Hakowitz and the other guy, and they actually, and they're insiders, they actually pronounced Valentine with a B. They pronounced it Ballantine. So it's Valentine really? And Ballantine. So if we did that, which since they're insiders, I assume they know how to pronounce it, that will greatly help us with our getting them confused.
I'm calling them Val and Bal for the rest of the year.
There you go.
Whatever.
I actually said Ballantine.
Whatever.
And I got absolutely roasted for it. But you're right. If Wes Hakowitz and Mike Spofford's saying it, it's probably correct. I'm 99% sure they're correct. So it's nice to know I had it right in the first place, but I'm just tired of getting verbally abused by Jacob for mispronouncing names wrong. So he has been running 2 years of victory laps about Enagbare because he got that one right. I said Enagbar, I said Enagbar. What was it? Someone else. I can't remember exactly what someone else said. Doesn't that sound like the Tennessee version? Enagbar. That's what I was saying.
we had fun with Anders and Anders during training camp too. That was fun.
Yeah. Yep. And it is Anders, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so.
I believe. There you go.
Do we still know? I think it's Anders.
I'm going to kill my camera real quick because I'm going to get real close. I want to talk about the Packers offensive personnel real quick, okay? So I'm going to carry my mic here like I'm somebody important. Let me stand up, these old bones. So 11 personnel, we ran 65% of the time.
How much?
6. Oh, my God. See, I can't get to it. I'm now having to bend over, hurt the back. We got to get to it. So the Packers have run 11 personnel.
65%
of the time, and that ranks 17th in the NFL. Their EPA is 7th. They've run 12 personnel 30% of the time. That's 3rd highest in the league, and their EPA is 21st. And then 21 personnel they've run, I believe, 3% of the time. I think that says it's 18th is the rank, and their EPA is 18th. So just to kind of put that into perspective, we talked about it before, right, Tim? That when I was watching the tape, it's like, man, we need 11 personnel on the field. That's the best players on the field right now, right? Like You could tell that was their strongest personnel. And the EPA ranking suggests that it's true, ranking 7th there with 11 personnel. So just want to kind of get your take on that because Tucker Kraft's playing good. Luke Musgrave will probably be healthy here within the next 2 weeks if somehow we do make it to the playoffs. If we don't see him in week 18, and we make the playoffs, we might see them in the wild card round. But man, we're running the heck out of 12 personnel, and like I said, running it third most in the league, but not getting near as much EPA ranking as we do with 11 personnel. What do you think about that, Tim?
Yeah, I agree. I would I would think, the goal would be to get Musgrave back for playoffs if that in fact becomes a reality. And I think you're right. We do play a lot of 12, but 11 seems to be our strong suit. I would agree with that. And I think certainly in tomorrow night's game, we should see a pretty heavy dose of 11 personnel. You're right. You've really got the one tight end to lean on right now. And I think it's, probably best using him in that personnel grouping, having Tucker Kraft, Tuck Norris there being your guy in 11 personnel. I love it, especially with the contributions that we are getting from these other receivers. And, we saw it briefly last week, but Aaron Jones looks as close to full strength as we've seen him really since week 1 this year. So, we've got playmakers on this offense. And I think, when and if we are in the playoffs and we've got Luke Musgrave back, I'm sure we would see some 12 personnel peppered in there, and maybe with a little bit more success once we get those two guys back on the field together.
Definitely. I think Carly said in the chat she had to step away for a second. So let's take a second and just say that we are proud to be sponsored by BetUS. They are now the official sportsbook of Packers Total Access Live. We appreciate them partnering up with us. If you guys want to support the stream, and it doesn't cost a single dime to do this, if you click on the link in the description of this video, it will send you directly to BetUS. And by using that link, you can register for free with BetUS. And when you register that account, it attaches you to us at PTA and lets BetUS know that we sent you their way. So like I said, if you want to support us in that way, that's something that's on the table. We appreciate them becoming the official sports book of Packers Total Access. We had mentioned earlier today that the green line has now moved to Minnesota -1.5. So they're 1.5 point favorites according to PFF. And their actual metrics there has it at -1.4, so slightly better. The line continues to move from 2 closer to Green Bay. So really interesting stuff there. If you go over to BetUS, they actually have it at -1 Minnesota. Of course, if you take the Packers, you're getting the Packers +1. You guys know I don't give any betting advice on here, but I kind of like that +1. I don't know. I'm just feeling good about tomorrow. Maybe I'm being too positive. I'll be eating crow tomorrow night, but I don't know. I feel good about where the Packers are. I think their offense is cooking. I think the defense is due for a good game. And I'm just telling you right now, man, you guys heard Chalk Talk. If Jair doesn't bite on that Tampa 2, or actually 2 different plays. The cover 1 man where we fired the 6 and he just decided to go rogue and play 10 yards off the line while all the other corners were playing closer. If he doesn't do that, you stop him on that 3rd and 12, probably win that ball game with only giving up 16 points. It's just amazing how one play in the game can change the outcome, the momentum. And then, of course, you had the Tampa 2 play where he clamped down too far underneath when he should have kind of took that hook zone on the outside. So, just little things like that matter, man. I'm feeling good about Valentine and Valentine out there playing corner with Nixon in the slot tomorrow. Nixon struggled, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, man. Jaron Hall's got to prove it to me. I'm not quite as confident in Jaron Hall as Matt LaFleur is, as Carly pointed out. But again, we appreciate BetUS, America's favorite sports book. Been in business for 30 years now. Really, really appreciate them jumping on board. The final graphic I wanted to hit on real quick. And Carly, are you back yet?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. We hit on that personnel. Did you hear that aspect? And did you have anything you wanted to add to it? Just talking about how, they're running 12 personnel more than anything. They're running at 3rd highest in the league, but have a much lower EPA, which is essentially a success rate, if you will, than they are 11 personnel, which is the 3 wide receiver sets. 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. Their percentage ranking there is 17th, but they're 7th in EPA. So they're having more success out of 11 personnel. Anything you want to add to that conversation there?
Nope. I was interrupted by a child. I missed the whole thing, so I will bow out of that one.
Yeah, I got you. Well, being interrupted by the child is way more important than what we're talking about here. I promise you that. Let's move on to this real quick. I'm going to get close again here. So this is basically their offensive identity. Okay. So we're in the gun we're ranked 16th. I think that is, I can't see exactly what is that, 73. Can you see what that top number is, Tim? I'm on this blurry screen here, bro. Tim stepped away too. He went to
I
burn.
Oh
think
no,
it's
I'm on
are
mute.
you
I'm sorry. It's 73.
72%.
Okay, 73. Got it. Okay, thank y'all. So 73%, that's 16th highest in the league. You see their EPA ranking, I think, is 8th. And then when you go under center, they're at 27%. That's 17th in the league, and that's 9th in EPA. So you can see there's really not much of a difference between the EPA ranking when they go from gun to under center, right? When you're using motion, it gets a little bit different. They're using motion, I think that says 63% of the time. That's top 10 in the league. I think that's either 8th or 6th in the league, and the EPA is 11th. You just see all these EPA numbers are looking really, really nice when it comes to the Packers. They're also 11th in no motion when it comes to EPA. Gap run struggled quite a bit. You can see they're leaning on the zone. Their EPA ranking in zone is 14th right now. When you go to play action, having a lot of success there. And they're not running near as much play action as we thought they would, right? They're kind of in the middle of the pack. I kind of expected them to be in the top 10, but when you don't have a running game, it's hard to sell that play fake. But they're not in EPA when they do run play action. Drop back, they're 7th in EPA. It's pretty remarkable, man. Now versus man, they tend to struggle a little bit. They haven't faced it, a whole lot. 21st most in the league. I think that has more to do with the total snaps than anything. But their EPA is significantly lower than when they play against zone. Matt LaFleur can scheme against zone. There's no two ways about it. Like he does a lot of those. The slurl we talk about, Tim.
Yep.
You got the Haas concept where you've got an inside streak with an outside curl. He's got some really, really good pick aside beaters. And what we mean by that is when a team runs a lot of zone defense, they'll run what we call pick aside. Not always, but a good chunk of the time, where they'll come out with two passing concepts, a passing concept on the left, a passing concept on the right. One on either side is designed to beat middle field open. The other is designed to beat middle field close. Jordan, couple hard counts, gets defense to tip their hands. Can, if you need to, can to a run. Can out of a run to a pass if you need to. You're looking, you're surveying the line. Ball snap, middle field open, middle field close. You know where your side adjustment is, and now you just read it out on one side of the field. That's how they typically approach playing a zone defense.
Yep.
Now, they've mixed in some other stuff as well, but that's pretty much how they've done it. Now, as far as versus the blitz, to the best of my knowledge, they have faced more blitzes than any other team in the league. It's first in ranking against the blitz, okay? Their EPA, 10th. What does that tell you about this young offense and Jordan Love? I mean, that's really impressive. Under pressure, when he's under pressure, right? Think about this, Tim, Carly. They get blitzed more than anyone else in the league. And when it comes to under pressure, they're 30th according to SIS data as far as getting pressured. Like that's truly remarkable. And some of those numbers get a little bit blurry when you're actually comparing the individual statistics and this and that. I can see how numbers can get lost in the shuffle, but I just thought that was really interesting. And their EPA is 8th under pressure. I mean, they're performing under pressure. There's no doubt about it when they're actually hitting home with pressure. Short drop, 49% of the time. That's 28th in the league. So we're seeing a lot of deep drops, and you've seen it all year long. They're 7th in EPA in short drop, and then they are right around 15th in EPA in deep drop. Let's kind of go around the horn here as we get ready to wrap up. Tim, what sticks out to you about those numbers there, man, as far as offensive identity?
Oh, I definitely think the deep drop numbers make sense, because I think that's by design to just give Jordan that time to be able to create with his legs and maneuver on some of these plays. Also with, like you said, looking at our success against zone defenses I mentioned this earlier in the season that, a lot of our success offensively is predicated on how well we run the ball out of passing concepts and how well we pass the ball out of running sets. And whether that's with design or that's with checks at the line pre-snap, like you said, using every iota of that play clock to your advantage, knowing how this league works, knowing that you can snap that ball with 0 on the play clock, and 9 out of 10 times that plays good. You can snap it on the 0. Get as much info as you can to give yourself a chance to be successful. But, being great against, pressure in this offensive line holding up in the pass game goes hand in hand with what we see with, our inability to gap run, because we can't run block. We have more success with zone runs. So it does. I mean, the numbers don't lie. We see it out on the field. But but you can tell there was an emphasis from day one that we are going to protect this young man when he's back there running our offense. And I will say that this offensive line group has certainly answered that call for sure all year.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. John in the chat says Clayton should get 1 hour every week, like Monday for a Sunday game with Stenovich and Barry. Clayton, best stat blaster. I'd walk into that room, they'd hear my accent and go, "Don't you got a toilet to clean or something? Dude, get out of here." It's exactly that response. Carly, what do you think about the offensive identity there? And do you have any questions about it? I know sometimes I think you play you kind of play what am I trying to say here? Not play stupid, but you act like you don't know as much as you know. And we've had football conversations offline. I appreciate the humbleness, but if there's anything there that doesn't click with you, let me know. But what sticks out to you the most? I think Tim kind of hit the nail on the head, though.
Well, I'm more of a visual processor for these sort of tables. So without being able to see it well and take the time to understand, but I get the concept. And something that I find interesting that I'm not sure what stat here reflects it, if at all. But I was listening to, and that's why let me back up. I'm saying where I got some of this information because I'm not just pulling it out of my rear end, but I also know that I only know about half about what I'm talking about. So please do correct me. But when I was listening to something that said when the Vikings in the last game, when they dropped 8, which I assume that means put 8 into pass coverage, Love was just 1 of 7 for 4 yards and 1 interception, which kind of makes me nervous, and they're probably going to try and do something like that again. So I really hope that we see, honestly, a little bit more of maybe Love tucking it and running quick, making quick decisions on where things need to go, because I think they're going to cover the pass a lot and not allow some of those longer developing plays for those receivers to get open. That's just kind of what I'm thinking may happen. We'll see.
That's a really, really cool stat. So I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. They said that when they dropped 8 into coverage, which essentially means they're only bringing a 3-man rush, which we showed you, they bring a 3-man rush the most in the league, but they also blitz 6 or more the most in the league. So there's really nothing in between. They're either playing a heavy coverage or they're playing a heavy pass rush. You're saying that was Love's stats were that bad against 8 in coverage. Is that right?
Yep. 1 of 7 attempts for 4 yards and then an interception.
Gotcha. And that was much earlier in the season. And now here's the thing, guys. The 33rd team that I'm pulling this information from, it's run by former coaches, former executives, former players. Okay. They have a bunch of contributors who have been around the game their entire life. That's why I always laugh when people go, "Oh, 33rd team's garbage." I'm going, you're a moron. If you're going to sit here and call all these people who have reached the top of their profession throughout their entire life, and now all of a sudden you know more football than them, that makes no sense to me. But what I'm getting at is all the other teams have basically their hands on this same data, right? According to SIS and all that stuff. So they're going through the same information. So if they had success dropping 8 the first time, and then they're looking at these numbers and going, under pressure, they've seen the blitz more than anyone, and their EPA's in the top 10. Man, when he's under pressure, their EPA's 7th. Maybe we just need to play coverage, right? Mm-hmm. So now the question becomes middle field open, middle field close. What do the Vikings like to do there? I know I had it earlier this week. I'm trying to scroll up real quick just to see if I've got how often they play middle field open or middle field close. I feel like an old man having to step up and look at this, man. This screen is small. All right, middle field open, middle field close. Middle field close, 53% of the time. That's 3rd highest, and their EPA is ranked 15th. Nope, that's the Green Bay Packers. My bad. That's the wrong one. That's Green Bay's identity. Knew I'd do it. Let me go up here and see if I can find it. I think it'd really be worth it to take a look at it if I can. Here we go. Bang. Okay. Middle field open. Middle field close, 42% of the time. That's 21st highest. Their EPA is 13th. Middle field open is 37%. That's 24th highest. And their EPA is 27th. So with that being said, they're pretty split down the middle, right? They probably play a lot of 0 looks too, because you're tallying those numbers up and you're going, okay, Clayton, that's only 79%, right? Yeah, they're probably showing some 0 looks, meaning everybody's up on the line. You could essentially take a shot if you got time there, but they may try to force your hand into doing that. So pretty even look across the field. If they're dropping 8, what I was getting at is if they're middle field open, that might be an opportunity to lean on the run more and also doing what you said, Carly, and maybe some design runs, some quarterback draw plays for Jordan Love. Not the Jalen Hurts type, but the take 6-7 yards and get on the ground. Don't take a hit, right? So I think it's a great observation. That's a stat that I overlooked, and I appreciate you bringing that to the table, because if he struggled with that the first time they met, and then these numbers are showing, man, he's really chewing it up against the blitz, they're probably going to drop more into coverage this time, would be my guess. So that's going to be very, very interesting there. So, all right, cool. As we get ready to wrap up here, let's go around the horn one more time. Tim, you got anything else to add to the conversation here, and then we'll kind of end in the chat and get out of here.
I think just going off what we just talked about a little bit, I really think this might be an opportunity to get a good look at that. Jordan is a more mobile quarterback. He has that capability, and I think when you look at mobile quarterbacks, the name that comes to mind is like Lamar Jackson. What makes him so deadly with his feet a lot of the time is when they do drop coverage on him and there's nowhere to go with the ball down the field. He is a master of making it look like he's going to throw for as long as possible, while also at the same time basically setting himself up to run 50 yards down the field on you. And what that does is it freezes that secondary. It freezes those defenders and forcing them to kind of not leave their assignment, which is going to buy you a little bit of extra yardage as a free runner. Now, the opposite is true if you've got them, bearing down your neck, or they're playing up a little more aggressive. You want to make it look like you're going to run right away and then get them to commit and then throw that patented pass over their head with your toe right behind the line of scrimmage there at the last second.
Yeah.
And we know Jordan can make those throws. We've seen it. But it's just a matter of, like we said, pre-snap read, post-snap read. Knowing what you're looking at out there is everything. And Jordan's been doing a phenomenal job of that lately. And I fully expect to see Minnesota kind of mix it up, and they will be pretty much balanced as far as, are we going to have to look to the boundary, or are we going to, fire those digs over the middle? Or, I love seeing Jordan, just cock back and ripping them right there to Heath and Wicks and Reed, in the middle of the field. So I think we're going to get to see a little bit of everything. It might be, like I said earlier in the week, it might be a kitchen sink type of game here. And we'll get to see the full repertoire of Mr. Jordan Love on Sunday night. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and you're seeing a more confident Love in, I think of that pass to Tucker Kraft. And again, I don't ever want Love to do that again, okay? But you're seeing that confidence in the accuracy to zip on the ball to fit it into those tight windows. This is a different Love than Minnesota faced earlier the year. There's no two ways about it. Now, listen, I'm going to say this, and it's going to make people mad, but I'm trying to be realistic here too. At some point, he's got to have a bad game, right? I mean, maybe it doesn't happen this year, but there's going to be growing pains along the way. We still got some of that going on. He's not just going to propel himself into MVP caliber and stay there, right? Like, there's going to be some ups and downs. But man, if he could finish this year, if he finishes these last two games and doesn't throw another interception, bro, what a year! What a freaking year!
Yep.
It's so exciting, man. Carly, what do you got? Parting thoughts?
I heard this kind of comparison or analogy in reference to something else, but I'm going to use it here. I want to see the run game, Dillon and Jones, be the mama T-Rex weakening the prey for the baby T-Rex from Jurassic Park, Lost World.
Love it. So I watched the most recent Jurassic Park. So you're going to see the viewer count go down, and like, I'm done with this. So I'm not a big Jurassic Park. Like, I watched the first one when I was a kid. Absolutely loved it. It was just a phenomenal movie. I watched the most recent one, and I'm like, I'm not excited about it. Mandy wanted to go watch it. We sat down. As soon as I seen Beta, the little baby raptor, I'm like, oh, I'm invested now, dude. I'm such a dog person. It was like watching a dog movie to me, man. I just loved it. But I thought it was pretty good. I know it got bad reviews, but that's how I roll. Some of the best movies in the history of the world, people are like, oh, it's awesome. Like, I hated it. I'll have a film that got like literally 2 out of 10, and I'm like, oh, it was the best. I loved it. Such a stick in the mud. But anyway, Robert Allen in the chat said they brought up Anthony Barr, protect your collarbones, LOL. Yeah, it was funny watching Twitter react to them bringing up Anthony Barr. Everybody was like, oh, God. If you guys remember when he broke Aaron Rodgers' collarbone, that was just
on a hit that was legal at the time.
It's wild, isn't it, to think
Yeah,
that was
you almost wonder, like, I mean, that was one of those plays they had to be looking at.
That was
like,
the one that changed the rule.
That's the body weight on top of the quarterback thing we see all the time here.
That was what sucks so bad about it is it was a non-penalty play that took our quarterback out. They established a new rule, and then we got penalized more than any other team it felt like next year for that penalty. It's like, we can't catch a break here.
I remember Clay Matthews. Clay Matthews had it so rough that following season. My goodness.
Oh, it was horrible, man.
Yeah.
What was you saying, Carly?
But don't you guys think it's funny though? Like with all the rules to make it safer for quarterbacks, we still have probably one of the record years of starting quarterbacks no longer playing, despite all of this. I don't know, guys. I don't know that's super helpful, but it's just crazy.
And it's crazy too to see the injuries, right? You know, like we were playing against Kirk Cousins when that happened, right? And his Achilles popped. That was just a freak accident. Aaron Rodgers was as freak as they come, right? It's just, it's interesting. The safer you try to make the game, the more injuries you're having. It's definitely it's an interesting.
You see a lot of those guys tweaking things as they try to not, they're trying to avoid a contact or pull up, and then they hurt themselves or they, hurt someone else inadvertently. So it's a dangerous game. It's going to be an uphill battle trying to make football safe in general.
I do wish they would just put grass in every facility. And there's still people that go, well, you can't put grass indoors. Yes, you can.
Sure can. Grass do it in Vegas. Do it in Arizona.
Yeah. You can roll the thing out or do the lamps on it like the Packers do, right?
Yep.
So it's possible. But I just love that grass stain on the uniform. I miss those old days. Some people, I feel sorry for some of the younger football fans that never seen that real football back in the day. Like, go back and watch it in the 90s and the early 2000s. Some of these mud bowls, they're unbelievable.
Yep.
There was like a Monday night game in Miami where there was like literally 4 inches of water standing on the ground. It was awesome.
I'd much rather see the old, the player gets a big chunk of the turf caught in his face mask, as opposed to what we see now is these guys go to the turf and they have a face full of these little silicone pellets, this crap that they put into the field, and you're like, you see guys, they're digging it out of their eyeballs, and it's like, I feel like that's more hazardous than just good old fashioned grass and mud. I'm with you, Clayton, man. Football's meant to be played on grass, man.
It really is, man. No doubt. Let's see here. SDN40 says, Clayton, when the time is right, do you deep dive on the draft and prospects? We do. We've got a whole slate of off-season content. It's going to be a lot of fun. We went through an entire off-season last year. I was solo last year, so it's going to be really cool to have people like Carly and Tim and Jacob and Emilio kind of hopping on with us. But the reason I named it Packers Total Access is I always wanted to come from the perspective of the team. What is the team focused on right now? Like if you guys watch, what have we talked about today? You're getting ready to go into a big game. They're probably last second studying tendencies, right? This is probably what the team was doing tonight, without the horrible accent that you're hearing right now. Like they're probably looking into the personnel. They're, just a little final walkthrough. Like, okay, we got the game plan put together. Keep in mind, guys. Keep in mind, they like to only bring 3, and they bring more than 6, more than any other team, right? Like this is their game plan. We got to be ready to make the second half adjustment. If they come out and do what we're expecting them to do, we may adjust to this. That's what I wanted Packers Total Access to be, to bring that perspective. What do we do after the game's played? We do a post-game show, right? We try to take you to the press conferences. That's the goal. Let's hear from the coaches. Let's get our immediate reaction. Then on Monday, what do? What are the coaches doing on Monday? They're handing out the grade sheets. Now, we use PFF. They've got their own grading system. But PFF is like our coaches' grade sheets. Like, okay, here's where you grade it out. Here's where you need to improve. Here's what you got to work on. All right, bang, bang, bang. What are they doing? They're going through the film. They're going through the film as a team the same time I'm going through the film to cut the video for Chalk Talk. And then what do? We try to get it out by Tuesday or Wednesday. I failed miserably the last 2 weeks because my wife's dragging me all over the country. But I try to get in there and break down the tape and go, okay, here's what happened. Here's why it happened. And then as we get ready and turn the corner, we have Paul Brettel come in and go, hey, here's the keys to this week's game. So we get a little bit of the media side of it, right? We try to get Mike Wall in here, a former player, to talk to you guys and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing on tape. And then we get ready for the next game, which is like tonight, the night before the game, we're kind of talking about all that stuff. So when we get into the offseason, guess what's going to happen? As soon as the season's over, we're probably going to be looking for a new DC. So we're going to deep dive the heck out of the potential DC candidates, unless, of course, they keep Joe Barry and Twitter is going to explode. There's a small part of me that hopes that happens just to see the reaction. I'm just being like, that's a once-in-a-lifetime reaction. But anyway, people are going to get so mad because I said that. It is what it is. So we'll deep dive on all the DCs. What will we do? We'll break down tape from some of these other top defenses. We might just get a week or two of that because they're going to look to make a hire real soon. But then it's going to be focused on free agency. Where are the holes out on the roster? All right, who are the top free agents? Is there a chance? What does our cap situation look like? There's a deadline. We've hit it like last year we nailed it going, okay, here's the 5 players I think they're going to restructure their contracts. And they restructured all 5 of those players' contracts, right? And that's not the brag. It's exciting because as a group, as the PTA posse, as us as hosts and the listeners too, we're all learning together and trying to put the pieces together. Packers total access. That was the goal. When it comes draft time, we will deep dive prospects. I put together a draft board every year, right? And I've actually got it right here real quick. I'll just hit it. Not that you guys will take time to look at it. This was my draft board last year. Number 1 on my prospect list, Jalen Carter, right? You see in the D column, that was the score. The lower the number, the higher the prospect, okay? Some guys are going, how in the world did you do that? I do everything backwards. Don't judge me, okay? So that's kind of how I put that together. That's the draft board. It's in tiers in increments of 5. So basically, negative 2.6 to 0, that was tier 1. From 1 to 4.9 would be tier 2. From 5 to 9.9 would be tier 3, and so on and so forth. A little bit of scouting reports on the right side. We'll be hitting on those draft boards and putting together our PTA draft board in the offseason. So that's what we're going to be doing. That's a long-winded answer, but that is the plan, and that was our goal when we created this podcast, was just to try to really what the 33rd team is doing. I'm trying to do a mini version here, and I'm just cheating using their SIS data and everything else. So, if there's what's the old saying? If I've seen further than anyone, it's because I've sat on the shoulders of giants. We've got former GMs, former players, former coaches who are sharing information constantly with us. It's just, are we going to lower our egos as fans and say, okay, what can I learn from them? Or are we going to continue to go on Twitter, throw up on our shoes and go, fire this guy, fire that guy. They're playing too soft. It's just, sometimes you just got to shut up and listen. And with that being said, I'm going to shut up and get off here. So appreciate y'all joining us. This was awesome. Carly, it's so good to have you on the show. Tim, appreciate your consistency, buddy. You're in here with me all the time. It's always a blast talking ball. We'll be back tomorrow. The plan will be Good Morning Lambeau in the morning, definitely a pregame show in the evening, and if it doesn't cause a divorce, I will do a postgame show. But obviously we're going to be celebrating New Year's, so there's a chance I can't do a postgame show. Maybe I hop on for just a few minutes. If the game ends at 11 and we do a 30-minute postgame show, I think I can salvage that relationship. So we may try to do that. But with that being said, appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We're going to get out of here. Hope everyone has an awesome night. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense. Yes, our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. And try to run this play in the alley.